think he's been punished enough, or the Russian government's been punished enough by the United States?
No, I think we have to raise the cost to Putin for the outrageous behavior he's committed.
Welcome back. That was Pennsylvania Republican Senator Pat Toomey on Meet the Press yesterday, reacting to President Trump's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Joining me now is Evelyn Farkas. She's an NBC News national security analyst and the former Deputy Assistant Secretary for Defense for Russia and Ukraine. A bit of a Russia-Ukraine expert, we could call you.
A little bit. I like to say I'm an expert on foreign policy towards those two countries.
Good to know. So Donald Trump is talking to Vladimir Putin. What do you think is going through Putin's mind when Donald Trump comes out and repeats what he told him? You know, he says it very firmly and very strongly. He didn't meddle, and I believe him.
He's thinking, great, I've got this guy hook, line, and sinker. We, of course, don't know exactly what he has on this guy, why Donald Trump seems to be persuaded, you know, against all evidence that Russia didn't hack the United States of America. Luckily, he doesn't dispute a lot of other things like Russia's occupation, illegal occupation of Ukraine. So he talks about getting Russia out of Ukraine, to the credit of the president. He will talk about getting Russia out of Syria, but it doesn't matter because the macro message is, I trust Vladimir Putin and we should work with Russia, which makes no sense because you need to be thinking about interests, not relationships.
What about when he says they've been sanctioned a lot, but we need to move forward and we need their help when it comes to Syria and ISIS? Well,
that's saying we need to let them off the hook because Russian behavior has not changed, not in Syria, where they continue to support Assad, who is a capital human rights abuser. Also, Russia has been complicit in the bombing and the human rights abuses that have been committed in Syria. They continue to, again, as I mentioned, violate Ukraine's sovereignty. They continue to be in violation of a bilateral treaty we have with them on nuclear arms. So across the board, and again, of course, they don't admit that they tried to subvert our elections. So there's no need to take them off the hook. In fact, we should probably be tightening the screws on the sanctions. They're clearly having an impact. If you look at the Russian press, and I see some of it translated, you know, the Russians are nervous, and that's why they're trying really hard to pretend nothing ever happened.
Does it make them more bold in trying to meddle again in 2020, 2018?
I think that, well, that's a good question. I think it depends on their read of the United States, because I think that they understand that Congress has their number, and Congress could, as I mentioned earlier, ratchet up the sanctions.
But the president doesn't.
But the president doesn't. So yeah. I think that they will probably continue to meddle where they can. And certainly in 2018, if I were somebody who was strongly outspoken and up for re-election, strongly outspoken against Russia and up for re-election, I'd be worried.
Let's play what John Brennan told CNN yesterday.
I think Mr. Putin is very clever in terms of playing to Mr. Trump's interest in being flattered. And also, I think Mr. Trump is, for whatever reason, either intimidated by Mr. Putin, afraid of what he could do or what might come out as a result of these investigations.
The former CIA director saying that the president of the United States could be afraid of the president of Russia. He's hinting there. I mean, he's hinting there. It sounds to me like, you know, former CIA Director Brennan is saying, I kind of believe in what the dossier says. That the Russian president has dirt. Now, it could be not of a kind of a sexual nature, salacious nature. It could be financial. But clearly, the way the president is behaving is not normal. Russia is not. Can you find any explanation whatsoever for him to be as friendly as he is to Russia? Still to this day, he is Vladimir Putin is I think the only person, other than maybe Ivanka, that Donald Trump hasn't said a negative thing about. Well, maybe Duterte, because I don't think he said a negative thing about him either. That's true. In the headlines that's a good point. But I mean, it is unusual. It's highly unusual because, you know, Putin and his government are running counter policies across the board. I mentioned a bunch of them, counter to United States interest. Did you see this Atlantic story about Trump Jr. communicating with WikiLeaks about disseminating info that they had on Hillary Clinton? The fact that WikiLeaks is widely believed to be working with the Russians. Julian Assange, a puppet of the Russians. Can that be considered evidence of Trump-Russia collusion? It could be. I think first, of course, you know, the prosecution would have to
show evidence that Assange is knowingly working for the Russian government. That's probably doable. I mean, the guy worked for, so if you look at the chronology, they didn't start off, I don't think, as an arm of Russia, WikiLeaks. But very clearly, once Assange started working for RT, the Russian television network, and from there on forward, he was very much acting in concert with Russian interests. Never published anything on WikiLeaks that was counter to Russia. In fact, there's a report out that a bunch of news organizations, including BBC, gave some information to WikiLeaks that was from the Russian Foreign Ministry, wanted him to publish it, and he didn't.
I suggest you guys at home check out The Atlantic's most recent story about Don Jr. and direct messages with WikiLeaks and what Don Jr. Tweeted out right after, or soon after they messaged him. Evelyn Farkas,
Amazing.
thanks so much for joining us. Good to see you in person here in D.C.